new fella?
He's an asylum seeker. There's 4 things in life I hate. Scroungers, foreigners, doctors and posh people, and he's all 4.
Legally, I'm not allowed to work, and if they catch me working, they'll reject my application.
Now, Jimmy, you play Koji, who is a newcomer to Brenda Blethyn's small town, and you park yourself in her cafe and do some work. And, you know, it riles her because she calls you, she says she can't stand scroungers, foreigners, doctors, and posh people, and you're all of them.
Yes.
So funny.
What a lovely intro from Kate. Brenda's amazing in the show, but what I love about Kate and Koji is that for me, it's a modern day classic. You know, it's about 2 unlikely people, you know, from different ends of the spectrum that come together. But at the end of the day, the show represents, I think, love, friendship, and family. And I think, you know, sort of right now, in terms of the state of the world, we need that, you know. And Koji is an asylum seeker, and he has his routine of going to the cafe just to either read a book, prepare his notes for his case because he's, you know, trying to get asylum, and he can't get peace there because of Kate. And out of one, I think they've had numerous arguments before you see their first episode, but out of the big explosive sort of discussion or argument that they have, I think that's the start of a fantastic friendship.
No kidding.
And yeah, it's a great show, and I'm hoping America's going to enjoy it like the UK did.
I'd get killed.
Excuse me, Doctor.
I was here before you.
Do you not have doctors in this town?
And also, but I think there's a recognition factor. You're both very similar. You both stand up for yourselves. You're both outre, you know.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we're irritated initially when we meet someone who's an awful lot like us, but then we get into the groove.
Exactly. Yes, because I think also the show comments on you can be from different worlds, right? You know, and yet you share similar traits. And I think that's what's really interesting about this show, because you might read the synopsis and it might make you go, oh, I think I know what this show is going to be like. And actually, the writing's so clever. Andy and Guy, Guy Jenkins and Andy Hamilton, they're very clever that they fool you into thinking it's a certain type of the show, but actually underneath it, it's full of family issues. It's full of being there for each other. It's about a community as well. You know, what it means to be a community and togetherness.
We do, but there's a shortage. It could take weeks.
You increase footfall in my cafe. So, if you're prepared to give medical advice, I'll give you free food and beverages.
I think we're supporting him before that because Vera's so mean. I mean, Brenda is so mean to him. And it's like, you know, back off. How would you like to be an asylum seeker, a doctor who's spending his days in the cafe? You know, so we're on your side a lot before that. And it turns out that you're about the only person in town who can actually stand up to Kate.
There you go. And I think she will never show it. I think that's the beginning of the friendship, you know, and I think in some ways they need each other. You know, they're the missing bit for each other, and
that's right. Yes,
and
the
that's
challenge.
The challenge. Yeah, that's the challenge, and I think that's what's quite beautiful about it. And I like the fact that within the writing you have the class element, you know, in terms of a female working class lead character, and at the same time you have, you know, I would say more of an upper class or a character, West African guy that's a little bit pompous, and just having those 2 type of people come together on TV is beautiful, and that they're stuck in their ways, but there is change throughout the series, and I don't know how much they recognize the change in themselves, but they do change.
That's great, and again, we need that kind of thing now. Tell me about working basically in one room.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I did theatre. I did a lot of theatre like Brenda Blethyn has. I've worked at the National Theatre. I've worked at the West End as well. And so being in one room, doing a multicam comedy sitcom it's like a mixture of theatre and TV for me. So I loved being in one room because, you know, Koji, he's got his favorite chair. He's got his favorite chair. You know, he knows where the toilet is. He enjoys watching Kate make him a cup of tea a certain way. And I think that what I love about the set, for me growing up, it reminds me of a very old school, old fashioned cafe. I'm from East London, and the cafe that they've created in Herne Bay really encapsulates that. And it's just fun because it keeps it very simple, and it allows us, the cast, to be very playful, nimble on our feet.
Word, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
This is not a cafe. My mum didn't start a cafe. It's a caf.
She can't cope with change.
I came to Britain because people told me it was a country of courtesy, good manners, and decorum. Hey! But I'm beginning to think that I was misinformed.
There are occasional glimpses outside, and you realize that you're surrounded by all this natural beauty. I mean, that to me is another element that's important.
Yes, it's so funny, isn't it? And we film in the seaside, and it is beautiful. But at the same time, for Koji, coming from a beautiful country like West Africa, he's like, he's a bit like, what is this place? It's cold. Like there's water, there's sea, there's no sunshine. I don't understand. Like, get me back to my big house mansion in Africa, which again is a very funny lens to look through in terms of, you know, the other narrative could be like, oh, look at Koji come here, taking all our money and all our jobs. And he's like, no, I you know,
I've got a big house. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a big house. I've got my own money.
All right.
Yes, exactly.
Look what this is made of. You know?
Exactly. And that's why I love the first episode. He's like, listen, I'm here because I'm fearful for my life. I'm not here to take, you know, the little money that the government's giving me. And I think that's very clever writing.
Yeah. And I mean, you keep it funny, but it's a very serious issue.
It is.
I mean, look at the States. So it's a very timely issue. As you say, it's the writing. It keeps things very modern. But again, the cafe gives you sort of a homey feeling as well. Very clever. Very clever.
And that was one of the reasons I went to do the job, because you can have comedy, but the show is saying something. And I think off the back of stuff like Brexit and whatnot, it was very timely for this show to come out. But what I loved is that it's bringing people a lot of joy and laughter during a time where things are very difficult. And also, like you say, this is a very important issue, and it's nice to get a bit more of a balanced view of what it is like for asylum seekers. So for research, I met an actual asylum seeker that told me what the process was like, and I think Andy and Guy were very careful that we weren't bashing asylum seekers, and actually we were given an authentic voice for them. And again, it's just been a lot of fun, and we have season 2 coming as well.
Hooray! Hooray!
Yes.
You know, speaking of asylum seekers, it's a very compassionate look. You know, and I appreciate that as well. And of course, he doesn't treat any patients, but he earns his keep.
Yeah. No, he earns his keep. He does.
Yeah, he's not doctoring. He's advising, perhaps.
Yes, exactly. Let's get the words right. I'm just advising. And again, the you know, you talk about these times of COVID and in terms of representation, that's an important thing to me. So even like within Koji's story, you know, there's a lot of like Asian African doctors across the NHS, you know, and that have come from different places, and people that are born here. And again, like his storyline just dips into a lot of different current issues that need to be talked about without us hitting people over the head with it. We've only got like a 25-minute show here. But what I do love is that nothing is ignored. You know, there's a lovely episode where what's her name? An actress, Mira Sayel, comes in and talks to Koji. She's another doctor. She's a local Asian doctor.
Right.
And
yes.
There's just a moment where they clock that they are, they're the minority in the seaside town, but but there's an understanding of what they've been through to get where they are,
Yeah,
and
that
it's
was
just
good.
a little knowing nod without us getting into the big conversation of it, because it's not that kind of show, but it is very clever, and I think it's making people think beyond the jokes.
Yeah, you're delivering a message, but softly.
Yes,
Fun
yeah,
with humor.
yeah.
Please tell me about your Triforce Creative Network.
Thank you so much for asking. Triforce Creative Network is an organization that I am a co-founder of with my business partner, Fraser Ayres. We created it over like 18 years ago to address, before it became a buzzword, to address the lack of inclusion and diversity in front of the
18
camera.
years ago.
Yes.
Wow.
We started doing things because we were working quite a lot. We've had good careers. We've got good careers, but we could still see the barriers and the boundaries for people that may be from a different part of the UK or from a different class, let alone color, sex. And we said to ourselves, wouldn't it be great if we could use our contacts between us to help build a bridge between the industry and the talent, whether you're up and coming, whether you're already in it but you're a bit stagnated, or whether you're at the top of the ladder, and we felt that happens at like theatre festivals like Edinburgh Festival. That's where the idea came from. And so sort of 16 years on, we've created numerous initiatives that help actors get agents. I've done them in LA as well, because I live between here and LA. That's called Monologue Slam. We've done a short film festival at BAFTA, the amazing BAFTA. So you've got filmmakers that have just made their first short film to people that have been making films for years, having their films projected on the BAFTA screen, and then having judging panels with people like Idris Elba to Kathy Burke to, the writers of, Notting Hill, the movie and stuff like that. People that can give work to creatives. So our thing was to always be inclusive and diverse, because that's representative of our upbringing and background, but also to make sure that we bring people into our network that can give the talent work and opportunities. Because you can say, let's do a scheme, but if there's no outcome after it, then there's a bit like, well, why are we doing this? So for us, everything we do, there has to be an outcome. So we've put thousands of actors on TV, on theatre stages, in films, and now we also help put camera people and makeup artists sort of in roles behind the camera. And then we're also creating content. So we've just created a show last year called Sorry I Didn't Know, which is the first ever comedy panel show about Black history. It's a bit like QI, and it's a first, and that's very in line with our ethos. It's an inclusive mainstream show. And so now we're creating shows, and we're able to use the talent that we've helped develop and helped support over the years, we're able to help them help us. So it's a lovely hybrid of coming together and tackling an issue within the industry.
Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you.
Especially since it's been going on for so long. You should create a Canadian outreach as well.
Yes, listen.
Especially for Indigenous filmmakers. So, I mean, the industry is really growing now, but there's so much talent out there with so many stories to tell.
And there you go. It's about reaching out to that talent. How are you reaching out to that talent? Let's make sure they are nurtured as well. They are already talented. They don't need no training scheme. But you're right. It's about telling, there's so many different stories, but you have to truly engage and then make sure that those ideas and productions are supported with the right budget. And then, the more different stories, the better. And there's a new show in Canada about Indigenous. I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's the first ever. There was one that was the first ever. I did a panel. Okay, I wondered if you knew the name of it. But it's great to see that there's a desire. I'm hearing you say that we need more of those type of stories. And that's what I want to do as a producer.
Who's the new fella?
He's an asylum seeker. There's 4 things in life I hate: scroungers, foreigners, doctors and posh people, and he's all 4.
Legally, I'm not allowed to work, and if they catch me working, they'll reject my application and send me home.
And why's going home a problem?
I'd get killed.
Excuse me, Doctor.
I was here before you.
Do you not have doctors in this town?
We do, but there's a shortage. It could take weeks.
You increase footfall in my cat. So, if you're prepared to give medical advice, I'll give you free food and beverages.
No one must say the word doctor.
Yes, doctor.
This is not a cafe. My mum didn't start a cafe. It's a cafe.
She can't cope with change.
I came to Britain because people told me it was a country of courtesy, good manners, and decorum. But I'm beginning to think that I was misinformed.